Our series, Show and Tell, will take you inside some of the great libraries, both public and private, to explore books and treasures from Jewish history. One of the treasured personalities of the JTS library, it's not just the books, it's the people who run it. And I am standing now with Dr. David Kraemer, who's the director of JTS's library, who's going to show us some of the amazing treasures here. So what are we looking at over here?
So in addition to our immense collection of Hebrew manuscripts, we've got a very significant, also immense collection of rare Hebrew printed books, including collections from the earliest stages. Here you've got the first printing, the Bamberg, the first printing of the Babylonian Talmud, complete.
Complete from beginning to end. There was an earlier version that was put out by Censored, but he didn't finish the job.
Exactly.
Bamberg
so 1520 to 23.
And the pagination that we have to this day, what's known as the Daf, all comes from Bamberg.
That's right. Right. Both the pagination and actually, to a very significant extent, the layout of the page.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at it visually, from edition to edition, it winds up replicating it very carefully.
So why do you have this page open up to us right now? This looks to me, I know a little bit about my way around through Talmud. Mm-hmm. This is from Tractate Sanhedrin. Mm-hmm. This is page 43, what's known as Daf Mem Gimel. Mm-hmm. What is interesting about this page?
Well, there are a number of things that are interesting about it, but there's one thing I want to focus on. Early in print, right, new technology.
Sure.
Right, they began to learn how you could take advantage of the printed page. So you'll notice in our common Gemara, you've got the name of the tractate, you've got not only the page number, but a variety of other things. Look here, right, it labels the chapter, gives us the page, but no name of tractate.
Why do you think that is?
Because they hadn't yet appreciated the full
what you can
possibility
do.
Of this technology.
All the possibilities.
It's kind of like early web versus more recently. But what's really astounding here, the world didn't appreciate the power of the printing press and the danger of the printing press. Because during the manuscript age, how many copies of there of anything, right? Sure. So if you've got a few copies circulating and they say things that the authorities might take issue with, the authorities usually looked aside. Censorship was not a regular part of the manuscript world. When we get to print, and when print begins to make its impact, all of a sudden the church and other authorities realizes, whoa, things that are said about us or which we find objectionable will now have impact not just with a few people, but potentially with hundreds and more. And so they began a regime of censorship, and originally a print like this, right?
So this is the original. Bamberg.
This is the first.
It's like pasted on. Why is that?
Well, this is a composite edition, right?
Okay.
I mean, in cases where pages were missing, we assembled from various sources, but this winds up being.
This is Tractate Sanhedrin.
This is
so what do we see over here?
So this is the beginning of the 6th chapter, Nigmar Adin. And if you look at the pages, there's actually nothing outstanding.
It's the same.
Right, page by page, they take advantage of the full page of printing.
Like if you go over
here.
Right,
and here's this is my own personal shas. And you can go page by page.
It's the same Tosos, more or less.
It's all laid out the same. But on this very same page, Mem Gimel 43a, when we come to the common printed, this is Vilna Shas, right? You can see
that's a lot of blank space, unused. They printed on all the other pages. Right. What was missing here?
Look over here before censorship, and we find tradition. This is talking about execution, right? That's the beginning of this chapter. It's how a court would execute. And this is talking about the execution of Jesus and Jesus' disciples. So not only does it record the rabbinic view of that event, of the execution of Jesus and Jesus' disciples, but it actually does, in a very direct way, mock the disciples of Jesus.
So this was taken out by Censored.
So the church censored this, did not permit the reprinting of the Talmud subsequent to this before that section was removed.
Wow, and I want to say something very interesting, a little bit of a spoiler. I knew about this because my grandfather, Rabbi Moshe Bekritsky, he was a student of Rav David Leibovitz, who started Yeshivas Chafetz Chaim. And when I was young, 5th, 6th grade, he took me aside and he showed me this very page, and he didn't have a Bomberg Shas. He didn't have the same budget as the JTS library, but he had a volume called the Chesronos HaShas, which is everything that was missing, everything that was taken out. And I remember he called me over and he sat me on his lap and he showed me what was missing here. So something very moving to see, not just in the Chesronos HaShas, but the original Bomberg, that piece that's missing.
What's interesting is that this was left out of all subsequent printings of Shas until contemporary Israel. Right, where there's no longer concern for censorship, there have been editions of Shas that have been reprinted now with this section restored.
Even in the actual...
Exactly.
Fascinating, fascinating.